Oh, what tangled webs we weave when first we practice to deceive. I started lying about who I was, building a persona in order to protect myself. I've been beaten up for so many years. I only wanted to protect myself. Later, much later, when I started building relationships with other people, those lies had to continue. And I felt they had to continue to protect them at that point, but also to protect myself. I was scared. I was scared to tell the truth at that point. I knew I was a girl at 3 years old. I knew I was transgender at 5 when I started school, and everything seemed just so wrong. I started being ostracized and bullied, beat up. By 9 years old, I was suicidal. I used to wet my head at night after everyone had gone to sleep and go outside out in the backyard in the winter. Of course, this was Southern California, so the cold wasn't as cold as it is here in New York, but still cold. So with wet head and just in my underwear, I would stand out there, hoping to catch pneumonia because I heard it could kill you. But if nothing else, be sick enough the next morning when Mom came in so I didn't have to go to school. I can't tell you how often I faked sickness when it didn't actually work. Licking the palms so they'd be clammy and holding the thermometer over a light bulb to try to make it go up before Mom came back in the room. Try to stick it back in my mouth. I got caught a couple times. And that's when it started to not work anymore. It was because I got caught. Nobody has a temperature of 130 degrees. I went to school. I hated school. I took a Gandhi approach to school. Passive resistance. I figured, well, if I just don't do anything, they'll just say, go home. Just go home. You don't have to be here. Just go. We're tired of you. Go away. But that's not how it works. In a little kid's mind, that's how it works, but that's not how it works. And so year after year, there wasn't a single grade that I ever passed. Always an F. Because I just didn't do anything. And then occasionally they would test me, and I would test off the charts, and they would say, what's wrong? And I would never say. It was a secret that I was going to die with. And so they would give me a D and pass me to the next grade. And this went on year after year after year until I finally left school. In 6th grade, I went into a private school. It was a fire and brimstone school. a prep school for Bob Jones University. And at 6 years old, I had to go to chapel every day. In 7th grade, it was started that Bible was taught as a course. Theology was taught as a course. And I had to go to chapel every day. And every day there was somebody up there just beating on a pulpit. And I can't tell you how often I was told I was going to hell. And it wasn't just in that setting, in that broad stroke of an arm moving across a crowded room of kids, telling them they're all going to hell. No. I was told specifically, just me. By so many teachers, by so many kids. For 3 years. I was about 12 when I developed bipolar type 1. After so many years of being committed and in therapy, we've kind of traced it back to around that age. I was under a lot of stress. And it's not uncommon for someone to develop bipolar, either in their, right around puberty or in their early 20s. But it takes a lot of stress to actually develop a mental illness, and this is a true mental illness. So at 12 years old, thereabouts, I developed type 1 bipolar. At 13, I sliced my wrist in 3 places. I went to the bathroom across the hall from my room. My mom had gone to the grocery store. Just shortly prior, my mom never left unless I was with her. But I was older now, I was a teenager. And so she left. And I saw that as my opportunity. And so I went across to the bathroom and found a straight edge razor. I didn't know what I was doing. Had no idea. I'd heard that I'd seen, I think, in a picture that you do it across. I'm not sure where I would have seen this. There was no internet back then. I had heard that if you're serious, do it down. So I tried both. And 3 slices. That's what I did. There was one that, I nicked the vein. I nicked a good one. And blood was spurting everywhere. And then I heard my mom pull up in the driveway. And immediately, because I was a little kid, I was 13 years old, my mind switched from, I want to die, to, I don't want mom to get mad at me. And so I raced around, trying to clean it up, as I was so panicked. I heard my mom bringing groceries. And thankfully, she was bringing them from the car to the porch and just setting them down. She never came in the house. And I was frantically trying to clean up blood as best I could. And then I wrapped half a roll of toilet paper around my wrist to try to stem the bleeding. And then I jumped across the hall to my room and shut the door before my mom came in. She was busy. She was putting away groceries. And I was in my room with a needle and thread, trying to stitch up the wound to stop the bleeding. I wore long sleeve shirts. Even through the warm months. I think it was warm. I remember it being warm and still wearing long sleeve shirts. And I remember people commenting, "Why are you wearing long sleeve shirts?" "Oh, I'm fine. I was dying. I was sweating." But I had to hide the bandages because I was still bleeding. I don't remember how long it bled for, but it was bleeding through for quite a while. But I managed to hide it. Nobody ever knew. I hated that school. I hated that school so bad. And I begged my parents to take me out of it. But it was, even though I was failing and even though I was always in trouble, they weren't going to kick me out. My dad was paying good money. He was paying big money for me to be at this school. They weren't going to kick me out. I begged my parents. And finally they said, "Okay, we'll switch you." And they sent me to another Christian school. But this was it was a tiny school. And it was a new start for me. And, I left the old school in 8th grade. And it was during 8th grade that I figured out why everybody was beating me up. Why I was getting ostracized. Why I was told that I was going to hell. Because I never really knew. And it was because I was a girl. And because I looked like a guy, I looked like a boy, but I was a girl. Well, that equals gay. And gay equals beat the crap out of you. And so I decided, well, if that's the case, if you're beating me up because I'm a girl, then I'll just prove to you that I'm a guy. I'll just show you. And it was a defense. It was purely a defense mechanism. My dad had bought me in 8th grade a weight set. He took me to Sears and was calling me Squirrely Burly the entire time that we were driving there because I was rather skinny. And we went in, bought this, just basic weight set. And I decided, okay, I'm going to use this thing. I'm going to use it. And between the time that I went from the one school to the other, between 8th and 9th grade, I grew 6 inches that summer. I was 5'6" in 8th grade. I was 6 foot tall in 9th. 14 years old, 6 foot tall. Had been working out all summer. Yeah, Rocky was a big thing. So I drank the raw eggs in the morning, and did the whole Rocky thing all summer long. I was a pretty big kid at that point. I had a good year. Nobody messed with me. I was the oldest one, and the school only went to 9th grade. And so I built at least a degree of confidence. And I asked my parents to let me go to the public high school. Now, the public high school where I went, I grew up in San Fernando Valley. It's just outside of LA. And our high schools, I don't know what your high school was like, but our high schools were 3,000 people. Seriously. And huge high schools. The high school I went to was the same high school that Jan and Marsha Brady and Peter Brady, Christopher and I, they all went to the same high school I did, but just a few years earlier than I did. Same high school though. That same year though, they were starting busing, and anybody my age that lives in that area particularly will remember busing. They bussed in kids from East LA, the inner city. And I'm not saying there's anything, well, there's things bad with the inner city. That was why they bussed them in. To give those kids an opportunity, a chance. But those were some tough kids. These were kids that, just lived a different lifestyle than I was living in an affluent neighborhood where the Bradys went to high school. And so it was kind of a prison mentality when they got there. Well, we'll pick out the biggest one and beat the crap out of him, and we'll prove our status. And that's what they did with me. I had gotten rather large. I was a good sized kid. You know, I'd been working out and bodybuilding, and I thought that was going to protect me. I thought that was going to be intimidating enough that people would just leave me alone. But it turned out it just made me a target. So these three guys from East LA beat the holy shit out of me. Beat me to unconsciousness. I'd never thrown a punch in my life. Even all the times I'd been beat up, I'd never actually learned how to punch back. And to this day, to be honest, I've never punched anybody. When I came to, looking up at a blue sky, trying to get my orientation and figure out where the hell I was, I looked around and I just said, this is not where I want to be. I'm not going to stay here. I got up and I climbed the fence and hopped over it, and I never went back. That was the second week of 10th grade. I was 15 years old. That was the end of the schooling. I learned enough. The Gandhi approach didn't work. They weren't going to ask me to leave. I just left.